Welcome once again to Living in the 21st Century. Joining me from the Ukraine is Professor Maksym Yali. He is Professor for International Relations. Maksym, this is a terrible moment right now in the Ukraine. And Ukraine is crying out for the help of the world. More importantly, sanctions is good, but you need physical help. And you're stating that you need to have your airspace protected. Would you want to comment on that right now?
Well, it's a real war. Of course,
Yes.
We need support, first of all, of the United States.
Yes.
Nobody could believe, including me, that President Putin will dare to start open war with airstrikes on cities. I'm living in the capital, for example. Last night, we had heavy airstrikes to the block of flats, people wounded. Luckily, nobody was killed, but it was just a fortune. Just airstrike, rocket. We can see. I could send you videos, and of course, many people are killed, wounded, and they tried to surround the capital of Kiev, and fights are taking place all around the country. They don't care. They shoot to hospitals. There are plenty of videos when even people driving on cars and with children, and these Russian soldiers, when they see that man is with the phone, start shooting at him from machine gun. So there are plenty of videos. You can find it on my Telegram or Facebook.
Right.
It's more difficult to
Yes.
publish
Right.
such things, but there is plenty of information already. Videos of people who are injured, who are killed. For example, hospitals, they even shoot not even only to hospitals, but to cars which are taking wounded people or just civilians in the cities all around the southeast, north, from all over, from all the borders, because they're taking also waging war, and started it not only from Russia but also from Belarus. You know, another dictator, Lukashenko,
Right.
is his brother, and he helps him to do it. And of course, the situation is crucial. I live in the capital today. Just a few hours ago, I went to the city to look around. People left. All the shops are closed. No products. So I'm sure soon we can have humanitarian also
Right.
crisis.
And Kyiv is very important that you hold on to that city. Now, is Putin army advancing in Kyiv right now, or how is Ukrainian soldiers, what kind of resistance are they putting up right now?
Well, nobody expected, first of all, Putin, that Ukrainian people will fight back. Not only army, but all people, just civilians. Now they are on the border to Kiev. They try to surround it. Already they sent Chechens, you know, Ramzan Kadyrov from Chechnya. He also sent troops here. They are very severe, well known. And we are fighting. More than 25,000 machine guns were given to the citizens of Kiev. And a lot of citizens want to fight back, ready to fight back, and they do. There are just queues to special districts when they can get a weapon and to become a participant of territorial defense, so-called. So we are ready to fight until the very end. We are just now on the edge of the war between democracy world and authoritarian, tyrannian world.
Right.
You know, we represent now all the West, all the democratic values, humanitarian values, which is the basis of European civilization, Euro-Atlantic civilization, including the United States. And of course, we strongly need support. First of all, defense system, weapons.
Right. For the machine guns that you have given to the citizens, do they have any backup ammunition to go with it?
I beg your pardon?
Sorry. So you have given out more than 25,000 machine guns to citizens, but do they have any ammunition, any to reload and continue in this war?
Well, so far, yes, patrons, you mean, so far we have. But of course, it is obvious already that if the Western countries, the United States of course, will not stop, Putin will not put serious sanctions against this regime, including excluding Russia from the Secretary Council of the United Nations. Of course, this war will be for months, maybe for years. We are ready to resist it. All people united around our president, because, you know, in the West, many Europeans and American newspapers wrote that, okay, he is a comedian, he is a showman, but he's showing himself as a very strong personality nowadays. And people even who didn't like him, opposition, who were now surround around him and were with him, and we don't want to capitulate, and we're ready to fight until the end. We're ready to die.
Is Russia...
In the cities, for example, I'm not a soldier. I didn't serve in army. So far, I'm organizing, working on informational front. But I'm ready when, if they get into the Kiev, I will also join territorial defense and will fight. There is no choice. There is no way to step back. You know, it's our land.
Is Russia taking on any casualties right now?
Yes, more than today in the morning. 3.5 thousand soldiers were killed already. It's officially. Many of them were captured. Many of them are very young, 20 years old boy, and it's a pity even, you know, for them. Our just common citizens, I have videos, they captured them and asking them, why did you come here? What are you doing here? Nobody expects you. It's our land. We are not Russia. We hate Putin. Even women, you know, very brave one came up. There is such a video which impressed me very much. She came up and told him, you know, I forgot this word. She proposed him to give some shoes. And he said, why? Okay, she said, after you are killed, at least flowers will become on your plate.
I saw a clip of that. Tell me something, the more longer this war goes on, do you see it work in favor of the Ukraine?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm telling you, everybody is united as never.
Right. So this can probably backfire on Russia, whereas he's killing out his own people in the military. They have families. They're losing their loved ones over a war that should never been going in the first place, and he's going to have enemies in his own country. The sanctions that was placed on him by NATO and the United States is going to also have an impact. This seems to me...
Excuse me, pardon, could you speak louder? Louder.
Sure, okay.
Louder.
Okay, sure. I said that this will backfire on Russia. He is killing out his own people in the military. They have families, and their families reject the war. Many Russians are stating today that this war should have never had happened in first place. And in the result of that, I think with the sanctions that were put in place by NATO and America, will have a long impact on Russia, not only its economy, but it's already taking effect in some way, maybe slower. This is something that you see playing out in the long run, that can happen in the long run?
Well, you know, I have an experience of 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was participating on TV shows in Moscow.
Yes.
And I just 2017, 2019. I know Russian people very well.
Mm-hmm.
And their propaganda is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
For last 8 years after the war started from capturing Crimea
mm-hmm.
and starting war in Donbass, they use very effectively propaganda. And many people still don't believe that Russia invaded. They still believe Putin. They love him, adore him,
yes.
And they want to kill us. That's the problem. You know, Putin, it's not just about person. He is a collective. He just expresses Russian people. Only about 15% you can watch public opinion polls are against the war. And the rest, more than 60%, support Putin and still believe that here neo-Nazism, as he says, yes, regime, but it's absolutely, it's not even funny. We were laughing from it because our President Zelensky is Jewish, you know.
Yes.
He is Russian speaking. He is from Russian speaking region. He used to work in Moscow many years. And of course, he is not far right, not talking about neo-Nazi. So that's the bullshit Putin is saying. Of course, reasonable people who have critical, mind don't believe it. But unfortunately, for 20 years after Putin is in power, he made everything not to have any opposition. Just even women, last video yesterday, who came out to say no to war with a baby, in her arms, were captured by police very roughly. Wow. So they just don't let these people, and they're afraid. I have many friends in Russia, some, and they write me how things is going. We don't have news. Now they're going to block Facebook, not to get this information. They block all internet sites where people of Russia can see these awful videos of death and even of Russian soldiers killed. There are plenty of them already. Our citizens are filming it. Yes. Awful, actually, of course, videos. We don't want to kill them. We are peaceful people. You know,
Yes.
we don't want war also, but we are ready to fight for us,
Absolutely.
for our independence, for freedom. That's
Absolutely.
the point.
Yes, Ukraine has approximately 44 million people. And mathematically, I am thinking, how could you send 200,000 soldiers to a nation with 44 million people when probably a third of that nation is prepared to fight who you are sending? How do you expect to win? I believe the Ukraine is going to end up winning this battle. What's your input on this and a word of inspiration to the Ukrainians right now at this point?
Well, you see, he didn't send yet all 200,000 people.
Okay.
And he doesn't call it war.
Okay.
What he wants to do, and he hopes, and his capital mistake, he thinks that people, common citizens, will greet Russian soldiers with flowers. They don't. They fight back, even women.
Yes.
And he now mostly strikes on military objects.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, airplanes, helicopters, but already they start shooting into civilians, as I told you,
Right.
hospitals, including, and block of flats. As yesterday, there was awful video. It was light in the morning because I was woken up last night at 3 a.m. by airstrikes, by sirens, and the sky was red.
Right.
And they start heavy airstrikes already on cities. And now already, just before we started our interview, because my windows are shut, because, you know, security measures.
Right.
It was just 10 minutes before we started interview. They started bombing again.
Right.
And now they're trying to get to the city. They try already yesterday, they struck into the electricity station.
Mm-hmm.
So they start already striking to civilian objects to block electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, so far, I have internet. But we are preparing, you know, that it will be disaster very soon. Because every minute, every hour, when the West is thinking whether to block off SWIFT or not, whether put sanctions on Putin or not, our people are dying, including children and women. And that's the problem. And the more you hesitate, I mean, leaders of the Western world, the more wounded will be, the more crisis will be. And that's why I ask you and everybody who is watching it to go out to the streets and to protest and to say the truth and to ask your president to impose very strict sanctions and the most important, at least, to give us our weapons for us to be able to fight also, not only for us, also for you, for the whole Western world, Western civilization, for the democracy. That's the war, tyrannism against democracy. That's the most important American people should understand, and American president as well.
Can you itemize right now off your head the most pressing, urgent things you need that you would like the president of the United States to know, and those of the NATO alliance? What are the most pressing? We know you're getting humanitarian help, but there is some physical help in terms of even getting more ammunition, all this kind of stuff. What are the things urgently pressing that you need to have right now?
Well, of course, we understand that NATO will not send troops, soldiers. It's okay. We knew about it because we are not a member of NATO, and President Biden has told it many times already. Okay, we understand it. But please, what is needed most of all now is air defense systems. Stingers, send us Stingers, Patriots, because Russia, we are very weak in this point, and we need to strike aircrafts, helicopters who are fighting, who are striking to not only to military objects but to civilians. That's the most important.
Right.
This cross line is crossed already, and we are begging for air defense system. That's what we need most of all.
Right.
Not hospitals, not humanitarian aid. It's okay. Of course, it is needed.
Yes.
But most of all, air defense system, weapons to strike and aircrafts. Because this is the biggest danger.
Yes.
Ballistic missiles. You see, they are striking with ballistic missiles already, and also to civilian objects. And just few kilometers from Kiev, they struck to airplane. But it was hurt here so drastically, and of course they can miss. And if they get to civilians, it will be catastrophe. And most of all, what you should know, and you should take care of. We have 15 atomic block stations,
Right.
And I pretty well know Americans and Europeans. They knew about Ukraine also only for many years about Chernobyl tragedy.
Yes.
In 1986, which took place, and radiation.
Yes.
Explosion. And that's the problem. You should take care of yourself as well, because radiation has no borders.
That's a question I want to ask you. You are becoming a superpower in terms of being able to protect your own self with security. Why was you barred from NATO or becoming a member? What stopped that?
Well, we didn't want to go to NATO. We were neutral. We were neutral country. We had neutral status in 2014. And most of people in Ukraine didn't want to join NATO.
Right.
But after 2014, after they occupied Crimea and started war in Donbass, where 15,000 people already killed, Ukrainian people start understanding that if we live with such a crazy neighbor who is ready to kill civilians, who wants to restore the empire, and Ukraine is the heart of it. Kiev, Rus, it all started. They even stole our history. We understood that to be protected, we need to be a part of NATO, because point 5, yes, if somebody attacks any country of NATO, then all countries are ready to join, to reject, to help. And that's the point why Baltic states, who also were occupied in 20th century, now in NATO, here they are also on borders. Why Poland realizes it, and why they joined NATO as soon as possible. Of course, now they feel more safe, but even exactly this country, NATO states, member states, give us the biggest support from NATO. Ready already sending weapons, because they understand that this war will not stop in Ukraine. They understand that after Ukraine there will be invasion to Poland, there will be invasion to Baltic states, and etc. The history. They know the history. In 1932, when Hitler wanted to occupy Sudets, a part of Czech Republic, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Mr. Chamberlain, allowed him and said, okay, Hitler told him, yes, we'll get only this Sudets region where Germans live, and it will be over. And when he came back to Britain, he said, I brought you peace. But then, in a year after they occupied the Czech Republic, they invaded Poland, and Second World War started.
Yes.
And then, of course, you know the consequences. Up to 37 millions were killed in the world during Second World War. And this will be quite possible, a Third World War in Europe. And we are saying it to our European allies. For those, for example, Germany, who didn't want to impose sanctions on energy sector. Yes, they were the last. Today, the great news that finally everybody started understanding what is going on, and they decided to block off SWIFT system. And the Germany was the last country to support it. They were also, they bribe politicians in Europe to have our allies to block our even intentions to join NATO. We are not going to be in NATO. Mr. President Biden told it already. It's not a question of the nearest future. We understand it pretty well. And we would be happy to be neutral as we used to be for 30 years already. But if Russia didn't start invasion, we understand that this is the only chance. Otherwise, okay, we're ready to reject our intentions to join NATO, but give us guarantees that this war will stop and will never happen again. I want to state one very important thing, what most of Americans don't remember. In 1994, we were number 3 superpower. We have number 3 in the world after USA and Russia, number of nuclear weapons and rockets. We could ourselves only. We had enough of rockets, missile, intercontinental, to just to destroy the United States.
Right.
We had enough potential, but we were peaceful countries. We asked for guarantees. We gave these nuclear weapons to Russia. Instead of it, the United States, the Great Britain, and Russia gave us guarantees for our sovereignty and security, and violated this memorandum, Budapest Memorandum, Russia in 2014 when they occupied our territories.
Maksym, we have to come back again. I would love to have a next interview. We are running out of time right now, but I'm going to touch base with you, and we're going to discuss this and get a next interview. And for those who have been tuning in, thank you for tuning in on Living in the 21st Century.